Welcome to a new motovlog here on 1000 PS, this time with the KTM 890 SMT. Yeah, during our stay in Barcelona, we once again had the pleasure of riding the KTM 890 SMT. It's not a new model, but it's always a joy to get our hands on this bike again. Let's take a quick look at it in the walk around. The first thing you might have noticed right off the bat is the tires. We got this model from the KTM dealer here in Barcelona, which means it's probably their demo bike. And it's really interesting what they've done with the tire choice, because on the back we've got a Pirelli Diablo Rosso 3 and on the front a Michelin Power GP. So we've got mixed tires here on the 890 SMT, and I find that a bold choice, but not one that I'd fully trust, to be honest. And generally you can tell this bike has already seen quite a bit of use. I think we've got around 7,500 kilometers on the clock. And also the equipment isn't quite what you'd expect from a press bike, because there's no quick shifter on board and not all the features are unlocked. We've got the cruise control button, sure, but it doesn't actually do anything. It's not even active. It was included as an option and they installed the switch, but for this demo bike they decided not to enable it. But hey, that's not gonna stop us. I want to take you along on a little ride with the 890 SMT today and share some impressions, talk a bit about the bike, because while I was here in Barcelona, I made another video about the 890 SMT. And you really have to say, this bike, even though it's so unique and actually pretty cool, no one really talks about it. That might have something to do with KTM's current situation, but that's exactly why we should be pointing out. The SMT is currently available at a really good price. So if you look at the list prices and then what some of the dealers are actually asking for it, man, all of these should really be sold already, because the bike is cool and it's also convincing here on twisty mountain roads. Of course, it comes with the LC8C engine, the pure twin cylinder from KTM, 898 cubic centimeters, so just under 900 cc, and it puts out 105 horsepower and 100 Newton meters. That thing really moves. The engine is also used in the 890 Adventure models, in the Duke models, and it has really proven itself over the past years. Yeah, I know there was a time when people had issues with the camshafts in this engine, but that was before the 890 SMT was even on the market. So KTM did respond to those engine problems, and the 890 SMT isn't affected at all. Of course, during my time with it, I realized this engine would be even more enjoyable with a quick shifter, because then you could really bang through the gears. Always accompanied by that nice KTM sound. Sadly, we don't have that here. But hey, old school manual shifting also has its charm, especially when you've got a view like this. You don't necessarily want to rush and smash through the gears, you can also just cruise. Because even though this bike is called SMT, Supermoto Touring, it's really more of a sporty travel machine. We've got 17-inch wheels front and rear, so it's not just made for fun on your favorite twisty road, it's also meant to go the distance. Yeah, of course, there are better bikes out there for long distance touring, no doubt. But for me, with my height of 1.75 meters, the seating comfort is phenomenal. The handlebars are at a great height. I find the seat comfortable, and most importantly, even with my short legs, I can still reach the ground. That means I can easily turn the bike around even when the road gets a bit gravelly or uneven. I can stay planted, turn safely, and that's not something I can do on every touring bike. That's why I usually avoid them. But the 890 SMT works for me. The seat is pleasantly low, the bike is narrow, so I can get my feet down easily and I just feel safe. Now, what you can definitely criticize, and actually have to criticize when it comes to touring comfort, is the windscreen. For the sake of looks, it's been kept quite low. Right now on this road, I think it's fine. Feeling a bit of wind is part of what makes riding fun, but on the highway, And generally, once you get past 100 kilometers per hour, you definitely feel the wind pressure from about chest height all the way up over your helmet. That's where I'd want better wind protection. Of course, KTM offers options in the accessories catalog, so you can upgrade it, but straight from the factory for a touring bike, the windscreen is a bit too small. But hey, even for this model, KTM couldn't let go of their ready-to-race motto. Remember, even in the first launch video, they showed the bike at a hill climb event. I think the journalists even got to do a fictional hill climb at the launch. They blocked off a mountain road and they just blasted up there. So the 890 SMT definitely has more of a sporty focus than a touring one. Otherwise, the bike, I don't want to just read out the technical specs to you. We've got the website and other videos for that. I'd rather give you a sense of how this bike rides here on these mountain roads. And I've got to admit, this would be exactly the kind of bike for me. I keep thinking I should go on a motorcycle trip someday, but in the end I never do. I just want a bike that gives me the option to travel, but is also sporty enough for everyday use and makes me want to go out for a fast weekend ride on a country road, but still has the potential to go on tour. All right, let's turn around here. And yeah, that's exactly what this bike is. It gives me a sporty vibe. It's not a true supermoto, but you could say it's supermoto inspired. With that wide handlebar, I sit really close to the front, which gives off a bit of that supermoto feel, but it's also just super fun on a day ride when I want to tear it up a bit. At the same time, the upright seating position and the overall comfort of the bike give it that potential for touring. And that's also reflected in the riding components. They lean more towards the sporty side. The suspension is on the firm side, gives me clear feedback from the road, and the brakes work perfectly, so I can brake confidently and precisely. I've got a solid pressure point, I can modulate them well, and thanks to lean angle sensitive systems, I can brake confidently even while cornering without worrying about losing control. KTM really put together a fantastic package with this one. The issue with this bike is really just the way it's positioned. Because when you hear supermoto touring, you expect this wild compromise between a lightweight, sharp, agile supermoto and a comfortable tourer. And bringing those two things together, that's just not really possible. I mean, like I said earlier, it's light for what it is. 194 kilograms dry weight, if I remember correctly, but that's obviously not as light as a real supermoto, which might weigh just over 100 kilos. So I think a lot of people approach this bike with the wrong expectations. It might have made more sense to call it something like the 890 Adventure S and market it as a 17-inch version of the 890 Adventure, rather than trying to brand it as a supermoto that's also a tourer. But yeah, this bike, I can already tell I'm veering off into the topic of the other video. And of course, I want you to check out both videos about the 890 SMT, because I really think it deserves to be talked about more, even if it's already starting to fade into the background a bit. Because out here on these mountain roads, it just gives me such a nimble, light feeling when riding, so much confidence to lean into corners. And despite the slightly higher stance and longer suspension travel, it still feels super stable. I can totally imagine if you had perfect temperatures, clean asphalt, neither of which I have right now, and consistent tires front and back, you could really push this bike hard without being worn out at the end of the day. Because the seating position is just that comfortable, and overall you're really riding a sporty travel bike. And with that, I think I'll wrap up my ride with the 890 SMT. I'll stop here on the side of the road again with this gorgeous view looking out toward the sea, planes just coming into land toward Barcelona. Let's wrap it up with a final verdict on the bike. And what I really want to say about the KTM 890 SMT, don't ignore it. take it for a test ride, even if I know the look divides opinions. I don't think it's exactly beautiful, but I think it's really cool. I really like the high shoulder design, but just give it a try. Maybe it'll win you over, because right now, early 2025 as we are speaking, you can get it for a crazy good price compared to the list price. It's actually being sold below value, which means you could snag a real bargain right now and end up with a true fun bike that, if you want, can also take you on a long distance trip. So thanks a lot for watching this motovlog with the 890 SMT from Barcelona. I'll leave you with this shot of a great bike and an amazing view. Thanks for watching and see you next time.